Chapter 16. Putting down the yellowed photograph, Ningqiu Shui felt his heart hammering in his chest. Who was tracking him? Not even the supernatural fog dimension could block this stalker's gaze. Sitting on the sofa, it took him a long time to regain his composure. He hesitated before sending the new information to his friend, Field Mouse. Field Mouse replied quickly. "This is getting complicated. We haven't even finished investigating the first letter, and now there is a second. Don't worry, I have some free time lately. I will keep digging. If I hit a dead end, I will contact that woman." At the mention of that woman, Ningqiu Shui froze. After a long pause, he sent a simple reply. "Thank you." He dropped his phone and collapsed onto the sofa, completely drained of energy. A few days later, Ningqiu Shui was brushing his teeth when a familiar, unnatural chill washed over him. He quickly rinsed his mouth and walked to the window. It was exactly as he expected. A dense supernatural fog had swallowed his apartment complex. A battered bus was parked directly below his building. A 10-meter radius around the vehicle was perfectly clear of the mist, forming an eerie, isolated sanctuary. Ningqiu Shui opened his apartment door. The entire building was dead silent. It felt as if he was the only living soul left in the world. He sighed, grabbed the blood-red jade pendant he had smuggled from the first crimson door, and headed downstairs. The moment he stepped onto the bus, a familiar, joyful voice called out, "Brother." Ningqiu Shui looked up. It took him a few seconds to recognize the man. It was Liu Renfeng. However, the chef had completely shaved off his signature heavy beard. Without the facial hair, Liu Renfeng looked much cleaner and younger, though his rugged, imposing aura remained intact. "Are we the only ones?" Ningqiu Shui asked, taking a seat next to him. "Looks like it." Liu Renfeng sighed heavily. Despite his casual demeanor, Ningqiu Shui noticed the dark, heavy circles under the chef's eyes. He clearly hadn't slept well over the past few days. "Nightmares?" Ningqiu Shui asked. Liu Renfeng nodded. He cracked open a bottle of water and muttered bitterly, "Damn it. That horrific woman in the red dress keeps showing up in my dreams. She is scaring me to death." Ningqiu Shui offered a dry, teasing smile. "It seems her love for you runs deep. It is the red thread of fate binding you across 1,000 miles. You should cherish the connection." Liu Renfeng choked on his water and spat it out. "Brother, that is taking the joke too far. If you cherish it so much, why don't you go romance her?" Ningqiu Shui shrugged in mock disappointment. "I would love to, but she ignores me. She hasn't visited my dreams even once." Liu Renfeng's face turned a shade of sickly pale. He muttered a few curses about how beautiful women bring nothing but disaster. Then, Ningqiu Shui remembered a lingering question. "By the way, you never told me why you decided to stick so closely to me behind the first crimson door." Now that several days had passed, Liu Renfeng rolled his eyes and put on a mysterious front. "Brother, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in fate?" Ningqiu Shui was caught off guard. He thought for a moment before shaking his head. "No, I do not." Liu Renfeng let out a low chuckle. "I do." He flipped his wrist. 3 square-holed brass coins appeared in his palm. Each coin was strung with a different colored thread, red, yellow, and green. "Inside that manor, I cast 3 divinations. I discovered that 2 of the hexagrams were death omens. Your hexagram was the only anomaly. You were the only hexagram of life in that entire group." Ningqiu Shui's eyes flashed. He smiled. "Liu Renfeng, you really do know how to read fortunes." Liu Renfeng sighed heavily. "What can I say? Making a living these days is tough. The world is a treacherous place. Having multiple skills never hurts anyone." "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" Ningqiu Shui asked. Liu Renfeng's expression grew serious and cautious. "Brother, our profession has strict taboos. First, never divine your own fate. Divining for others is fine, but divining for yourself guarantees a swift death. Second, never divine for a colleague when the situation is already clear. Third, never divine for the dead. Aside from these 3 taboos, there are 2 rules of silence. First, never tell the subject everything. The more you reveal, the more of your own lifespan you sacrifice. Second, never speak of events with massive karmic implications. If you merely save one person or help them avoid a minor disaster, the karmic backlash on the diviner is limited. But if a person's life or death is tied to a massive sweeping fate, the diviner must absolutely not interfere. Doing so invites the wrath of the heavens." Ningqiu Shui understood perfectly. So, once the ordeal is completely over, speaking about it no longer triggers the backlash. Is that right? Li Renfeng nodded. Exactly. Once the dust has settled, I can say whatever I want. The bus plunged deeper into the fog. No other passengers boarded. They soon arrived at the familiar black gates of their ghost dwelling. As they walked through the heavy doors, they found the 4 veterans sitting in the main hall. They seemed to be in the middle of a serious discussion, which abruptly ceased the moment the 2 men entered. It seems we arrived at a bad time, Ningqiu Shui remarked casually. Liang Yan, the dwelling master, replied with a calm, even tone. The ghost dwelling is our home, and it is your home as well. You can return whenever you wish. There is no such thing as a bad time. By the way, your second crimson door is about to open. Are you prepared? Ningqiu Shui let out a short sigh. If I say I am not prepared, can I choose not to go? The entire hall fell into a heavy, unreadable silence. Bai Xiaoxiao stood up. Let's go, up to the 3rd floor. She had changed out of her nightgown and was now wearing a sleek, form-fitting tracksuit. She looked athletic and ready for action. The 2 men followed her up the spiraling staircase to the 3rd floor of the ghost dwelling. In the center of the hall stood the wooden door. It radiated a bone-chilling aura of dread. Fresh words, written in dripping blood, had manifested on the wood. Task: survive the village shrine sacrifice on the 7th day. The kind-hearted bled dry, turning into sweet rain. The benevolent was decapitated, granting peace. The innocent closed their eyes, praying for the rain and peace to arrive. They waited and waited. The crimson doors provide clues? Ningqiu Shui asked, genuinely surprised. Bai Xiaoxiao, standing next to them, explained. Only the first crimson door doesn't provide one. That is because 99.99% of people encounter an incredibly low difficulty scenario for their first door. The ghosts behind those doors find it quite difficult to actually kill anyone. Mostly, they just rely on jump scares and psychological terror. They rarely strike directly. She paused, a teasing smirk crossing her lips. Which is why I said you two have the absolute worst luck. To run into a vengeful wraith on your very first run and nearly get wiped out, that's practically unheard of. After the first door, the difficulty spikes significantly. To balance the odds, the crimson door provides a crucial clue related to the scenario's core mystery. There is another shift at the 6th door, but we can talk about that later. Your top priority right now is finding a way to survive your second door. Your second door is not going to be simple. After Bai Xiaoxiao's patient explanation, Ningqiu Shui silently memorized the bloody text on the wood. The kind-hearted bled dry, turning into sweet rain. The benevolent was decapitated, granting peace. The innocent closed their eyes, praying for the rain and peace to arrive. They waited and waited. The clue was incredibly bizarre and deeply macabre. Soon, it was time to enter. The blood-stained wooden door was once again pushed open by a pair of pale, bloodless hands. The consciousness of the 3 people quickly faded into blackness. When he regained his senses, Ningqiu Shui found himself standing in a large, desolate courtyard. A massive, dilapidated building stood before him. The 2 whitewashed walls flanking the entrance were riddled with deep cracks and coated in a thick layer of slimy green moss. The ground was a messy mix of gravel and overgrown weeds. Painted in fading red characters on the right wall were the words, Qiyu Village Tourist Hostel, a tourist group. So our identities for this scenario are tourists? Ningqiu Shui surveyed his surroundings. There were 14 people gathered in the courtyard, standing in loose clusters. Unsurprisingly, these people were likely just like him, residents of various ghost dwellings existing outside the crimson doors. It didn't take long for Ningqiu Shui to spot Lu Renfeng and Bai Xiaoxiao. However, both of their faces looked grim. Ningqiu Shui walked over and lowered his voice. What happened? Bai Xiaoxiao jerked her chin toward Lu Renfeng. She spoke with a lazy drawl. Ask him. Ningqiu Shui turned to the chef. Lu Renfeng was sweating profusely. His eyes darted around the courtyard, reflecting pure, unfiltered terror. When I woke up, I was at the foot of the mountain behind that dense forest over there. I tried to follow the trail signs through the woods, but right in the middle of the trees I saw a headless man. Ningqiu Shui narrowed his eyes. Are you certain? Lu Renfeng gasped for air. His eyes were wide with panic. Yes! I am absolutely certain. He just kept walking straight ahead, and then Liu Renfeng's voice broke into a violent tremble. Spit it out, and then what? Ning Chushui urged. Liu Renfeng's next words sent a glacial chill down Ning Chushui's spine, and then he walked right into the crowd of tourists and vanished. Ning Chushui froze. Vanished? Liu Renfeng nodded frantically. Yes! That headless man is hiding among the people standing right here. He cast a terrified glance at the surrounding groups and took a ragged breath. Ning Chushui turned to Bai Xiaoxiao. Sister Bai, what do you think? Bai Xiaoxiao shook her head calmly. Don't panic just yet. This is only your second door. The ghost isn't twisted enough to start slaughtering people the second we spawn. However, we must remain extremely vigilant. The moment she finished speaking, the voice of a middle-aged man rang out across the courtyard. Everyone, I apologize for the wait. The crowd turned to see a dark-skinned, middle-aged man dressed in simple, rustic clothes walking toward them. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hao Kong. I am the team leader for the Qiyu Village Tourism Board. I will be on duty for the next few days. You can usually find me in the lobby on the first floor. If you have any issues, please let me know. If you enjoy your trip, please help us spread the word. Thank you. Smiling warmly, he began handing out room keys to everyone present. There is a complimentary dining hall right next to the hostel. Once you have eaten and rested, feel free to explore. Qiyu Village has quite a few unique attractions. 7 days from now is our village's annual shrine sacrifice. The entire village will be participating, and you are all welcome to join. I know outsiders like yourselves may not believe in our customs, but praying for a little blessing never hurts anyone. He gave a few more general instructions before leading the group into the hostel. Throughout the entire process, the man named Hao Kong maintained a fixed smile on his face. The smile was subtle and faint, but it looked deeply unnatural. A single glance at that expression made Ning Chushui's skin crawl. These are your rooms. Electricity and hot water are available 24/7. However, our village has a few strict rules. I hope you will all abide by them. First, the village has a strict curfew. From midnight to 6 a.m., it is best not to wander outside. Second, the mountain behind the village is where the shrine is located. Due to the upcoming sacrifice preparations, outsiders are strictly forbidden from approaching the area. Third, if you encounter anything strange during your stay, you can seek out Granny Ruan, the village shaman. Having delivered his warnings, Hao Kong didn't wait to see if anyone had questions. He turned on his heel and hurried down the stairs. Ning Chushui watched through the hallway window. He saw Hao Kong walk briskly into the dense black forest, and he never came back out. Shaking off the unease, Ning Chushui began to inspect his living quarters. The hostel looked dilapidated from the outside. The wooden floorboards and doors were cracked and warped, but surprisingly, the interior of the room was spotlessly clean. Because Ning Chushui, Liu Renfeng, and Bai Xiaoxiao had been standing together when the keys were handed out, their rooms were adjacent to one another. Inside his room, Ning Chushui glanced at the ticking wall clock above the bed. It was 3 p.m. There was still plenty of time before dinner. He paced around the room. The bed sheets and the floor were immaculate. The walls were freshly painted a stark white. Yet a faint, lingering odor hung in the air. It smelled like ash, like something had recently been burned. Suddenly, Ning Chushui felt a strange warmth radiating from his pocket. He instinctively reached his hand inside. It was the blood-red jade pendant. He pulled it out and stared at his palm. The jade was emitting a faint, pulsating red glow. He was intimately familiar with this phenomenon. Back in the first crimson door, whenever the matron in the red dress approached their room on the 3rd floor, the jade pendant hung on the window would glow exactly like this. In an instant, every muscle in Ning Chushui's body coiled tight. Could it be that there was something unclean inside his room? The thought of an unseen, foul entity secretly watching him inside his own room made Ning Chushui's skin erupt in goosebumps. He quietly left his room and stepped into the hallway, but the terrifying phenomenon persisted. The red light emanating from the jade pendant in his palm didn't fade. In fact, it grew brighter. Damn it! Ning Chushui couldn't help but curse under his breath. He wandered the halls with the blood-red jade, his anxiety mounting by the second. He quickly realized the horrifying truth. The pendant glowed no matter where he stood inside the hostel. Could it be that the entire building was unclean? After a moment of grim contemplation, he immediately sought out Bai Xiaoxiao and Liu Renfeng. He brought them into his room and locked the door behind them. Ning Qushui pulled out the blood-red jade and placed it on the table between them. "Hey, isn't that the jade from our last crimson door? Holy shit, why is it glowing?" Liu Renfeng's initial surprise instantly morphed into sheer terror. He recalled the horrific matron from their previous ordeal and frantically scanned every dark corner of the room. But he saw nothing out of the ordinary. "Stop looking," Ning Qushui said, shaking his head. His expression was dead serious. "As long as we are inside this hostel, the jade will glow." He then turned to Bai Xiaoxiao and solemnly explained the origin and function of the blood-red pendant. Bai Xiaoxiao's brow furrowed deeply as she listened. She parted her red lips. There is definitely something wrong with this hostel. She began to meticulously inspect Ning Qushui's room. Her sharp gaze eventually locked onto the wooden bed frame. The bed had been carefully made. The sheets were clean, and even the crevices on the headboard were dusted. However, Bai Xiaoxiao reached out a slender finger and lightly swiped the floorboards directly underneath the bed. When she pulled her hand back, her fingertip was coated in a thick, gray layer of dust and a few strands of strange hair. "Do you see this?" The two men nodded. Ning Qushui fell into deep thought, while Liu Renfeng looked confused. "So they didn't sweep under the bed. That's pretty normal for a cheap hotel." Ning Qushui cut him off. "That's not the issue. The issue is the thickness of the dust. It looks as if this entire building has been abandoned for a very long time and was only hastily cleaned up for our arrival." Liu Renfeng froze. "You're right." Bai Xiaoxiao looked at Ning Qushui with genuine admiration. She had guided many newcomers through the crimson doors. It was incredibly rare to find someone as sharp and observant as him. In reality, most rookies were far worse than Liu Renfeng. They did nothing but scream and beg for help when things went wrong. "Wait, that doesn't make sense. This is the village's official tourist hostel. From the way that NPC Hao Kong was talking earlier, this village relies heavily on tourism. How could the hostel be abandoned for so long?" Liu Renfeng felt an inexplicable chill crawl up his spine. Ning Qushui finished his thought. "You are right, unless..." His expression darkened. He looked up and met Bai Xiaoxiao's eyes. Her face was equally grave. She gave a subtle nod, clearly arriving at the exact same horrifying conclusion. "Unless what?" Liu Renfeng demanded, his patience snapping. He leaned in close. Ning Qushui shook his head. "I can't be absolutely certain yet. I will tell you later." Bai Xiaoxiao checked her watch. "We don't have much daylight left, and we don't know exactly when night falls in this village. So after dinner, we should return to our rooms and rest. We will explore the village tomorrow morning." Liu Renfeng raised an eyebrow. "The night is long. Shouldn't we go out and look around?" He remembered their first crimson door. The entity had warned them never to go to the third floor, but the path to survival was hidden exactly there. This time, the NPC named Hao Kong had warned them not to go out at night. Perhaps... Bai Xiaoxiao shot him a cold look. The world behind the crimson doors is exponentially more dangerous at night. Think about your first door. Didn't the ghost always hunt at night? Unless you have a concrete clue or an absolute necessity that forces you to take the risk, I strongly advise against wandering around after dark. Of course, if you think you are the chosen protagonist of the universe with plot armor, you can pretend I said nothing. Liu Renfeng instantly deflated. After a tense dinner, the three of them returned to their respective rooms. Events quickly proved Bai Xiaoxiao's experience was invaluable. Around 7 p.m., the sky above Qiyu village turned pitch black at a terrifying, unnatural speed. It went from bright, glaring sunlight to absolute suffocating darkness in less than 10 minutes. Even if someone was at the closest tourist attraction, they could not have made it back to the hostel in that time. In other words, anyone who had stayed outside searching for clues was now trapped in the dark, forced to blindly navigate their way back. It isn't midnight yet. It should be fine, right? Ning Qushui thought to himself. The moonlight was piercingly clear. Despite the unnatural darkness, he could still clearly see the dirt road outside his window. The blood-red jade, emitting its faint, ominous glow, rested on his bed. He lay down and closed his eyes to rest. Around midnight, Ningqiu Shui jolted awake. A sound had disturbed his sleep. He listened intently. There was something moving inside his room. In a fraction of a second, his mind was razor-sharp and fully alert. He held his breath. It sounded like something was dragging itself across his floorboards. Scrape. The entity seemed to have sharp claws. As it dragged its body across the wood, it produced a horrific, grating noise that made his scalp go numb. Ningqiu Shui's body went rigid. He was absolutely certain. Whatever was in his room was not human. The blood-red jade in his palm grew burning hot. "What is that? Under my bed." The pungent, sickening smell of burnt ash he had noticed earlier flooded his nostrils. He desperately wanted to lean over and look under the bed, but his rationality screamed at him to remain perfectly still. A single movement could be the difference between life and death. Gurgle. The horrific entity let out a vile, wet sound from its throat. As it crawled, it seemed to sense Ningqiu Shui's presence. It suddenly began moving toward the head of the bed. The sound of its claws scraping against the floorboards was agonizing. A freezing chill washed over Ningqiu Shui. The suffocating smell of charred flesh permeated every corner of the room. If he didn't force himself to hold it back, he would have coughed violently. But he knew coughing right now was a death sentence. Although he couldn't see the demonic thing crawling beneath him, Ningqiu Shui deduced that the entity could not see him either, nor did it realize he was lying right above it. Under immense psychological pressure, Ningqiu Shui remained as silent as a corpse. His deduction proved correct. The crawling horror seemed bound by an unseen restriction and could not climb onto the mattress. It scuttled around beneath the bed for a while. Finding nothing of interest, it dragged itself back out the door. As it left, it even politely pulled the door shut behind it. Well, at least it has manners. Ningqiu Shui mocked internally. But only he knew just how close he had come to a gruesome death. He was certain that if he had made a loud noise, or if he had locked eyes with the entity, it would have dragged him under the bed and butchered him. Once the charred, stinking demon left, the burnt odor in the room faded significantly. The burning heat of the jade in his palm slowly cooled down to a normal temperature. Just as he was about to try and sleep again, a blood-curdling, agonizing scream of a man erupted from outside his window. The raw, primal terror in that scream instantly banished any remaining sleepiness from Ningqiu Shui's mind. "Help! Save me! Please!" The man screamed for help toward the hostel. The only answer he received was a dead, suffocating silence. Ningqiu Shui slipped out of bed. He crept to the wooden door and locked it. He then moved to the window. He looked down into the courtyard, illuminated by the cold moonlight. A dark silhouette staggered out of the forest. The figure was frantically clawing at its own neck. It was the man screaming for help. The man shrieked agonizingly at the hostel. He tore at his throat with his fingernails. It looked as if an invisible force was choking him. He tried to reach his hand toward the building, but his body seemed completely out of his control. His hand snapped back, resuming the frantic gouging of his own flesh. He spun in erratic circles in the center of the courtyard. An unseen barrier prevented him from getting any closer to the hostel. His screams grew increasingly horrific. The sound made Ningqiu Shui's scalp go numb. Yet, no one from the hostel stepped outside to save him. Perhaps no one else heard the screams, but even if they did, no one dared to intervene. Everyone knew the lethal nature of the world behind the crimson doors. Rushing out into the dark was absolute suicide. It would only add another corpse to the pile. Finally, after 10 agonizing minutes, the screams abruptly stopped. Ningqiu Shui thought the ordeal was over, but the next scene made his eyes widen in pure, unadulterated shock. He nearly cried out. Under the pale moonlight, the man dropped to his knees. He gripped his own head with both hands. With a sickening, visceral tearing sound, he ripped his own head clean off his shoulders. A geyser of crimson blood erupted into the air. The spray reached all the way to the second-floor windows. The horror did not end there. Despite decapitating himself, the man was not dead. The severed head still shrieked for help. "It hurts. Save me. I beg you, save me. It hurts. I am in so much pain. Why? Why won't anyone save me? Why?" As the voice echoed, the headless body lifted its own dripping head high into the air. The dead eyes slowly scanned the hostel, inspecting every single window. Ningqiu Shui immediately stepped back into the shadows. He retreated to his bed. His heart hammered violently against his ribs. It took a long time for the courtyard to return to total silence. Exhausted by the adrenaline, Ningqiu Shui eventually slipped into a restless sleep. The next morning, a sharp knock on the door woke him. He opened it to find Bai Xiaoxiao fully dressed and ready. She wore virtually no makeup, save for her signature, blood-red lipstick. "Get dressed. After breakfast, we will explore a nearby tourist spot. We might find a clue to our survival." Ningqiu Shui nodded. He quickly changed his clothes and headed downstairs. Bai Xiaoxiao and Lu Renfeng were waiting by the entrance. A crowd had already gathered in the courtyard. Ningqiu Shui did a quick head count. He frowned. 3 people were missing. Did they leave early, or were they still asleep? Or perhaps, what happened? Ningqiu Shui asked as he joined his companions. They remained silent. Bai Xiaoxiao simply jerked her chin toward the center of the courtyard. A corpse lay in the dirt. It was a mangled, bloody ruin. It had no head. It was the exact same man Ningqiu Shui had watched die the night before. He pushed through the murmuring crowd and approached the body. The head was entirely missing. Only the decapitated torso remained. The neck was covered in deep, bloody gouges. Chunks of torn flesh were still lodged tightly beneath the corpse's fingernails. "Does anyone know him?" Ningqiu Shui asked, turning to the crowd. A pale young woman stepped forward. She spoke with a trembling voice. "He might be my friend, but I cannot be certain. He has no head." Ningqiu Shui waved her over. "Then come closer and take a good look." The woman recoiled in terror. She waved her hands frantically, on the verge of tears. "No, I refuse to go near it." Ningqiu Shui remained silent. He quickly understood her reaction. This was only his second Crimson Door, meaning the majority of these people were also rookies. It was entirely natural to break down at the sight of such a gruesome corpse. Suddenly, someone in the crowd shoved the young woman forward. She shrieked, stumbled several steps, and collapsed to her knees directly in front of the headless body. She immediately covered her eyes, too terrified to look at the carnage. Fortunately, the overnight wind had dispersed the worst of the metallic stench. Otherwise, Ningqiu Shui was certain she would have vomited on the spot. He stepped forward and positioned himself to block the worst of the gore. He spoke with a commanding tone. "All right, I have covered the neck wound. Look at his clothes and other details. Can you confirm his identity?" Hearing this, the woman carefully peeked through her fingers. She stared for a few seconds before nodding violently. "Yes, it is him." Ningqiu Shui frowned. Just as he suspected, the victim was one of their own ghost tenants. "Do you know where he went last night?" She took a deep, shuddering breath. It took her a long time to suppress her terror. "Last night, he wanted me to go with him to the mountain shrine behind the village. He said the NPC, Hao Kong, explicitly forbade us from going there. He believed the path to survival was hidden at the shrine, but I was too afraid, so I stayed behind. He went alone, and then he never came back, the mountain shrine." Hearing her words, Lu Renfeng's face turned a ghastly shade of white. He had harbored the exact same idea yesterday. If Bai Xiaoxiao hadn't strictly forbidden him from wandering out at night, he would have gone. If he had ignored her warning, there would likely be 2 headless corpses rotting in the dirt right now. You see, this is the price of reckless actions after dark. Bai Xiaoxiao spoke with a casual drawl, but her words made Lu Renfeng shiver. "All right, let us go eat breakfast." She yawned lazily. She turned on her heel and led the way toward the village dining hall, giving the corpse a wide berth. Someone in the crowd shouted after her, "Hey, are we just going to leave the body here? Is no one going to do anything?" Bai Xiaoxiao did not look back. "If you are feeling generous, you can bury him yourself. But it is a complete waste of energy. Behind the crimson doors, corpses vanish very quickly." Ningqiu Shui meticulously inspected the remains. His sharp eyes caught a detail. He swiftly extracted a small object from the dead man's clothes and concealed it in his palm. He then stood up and followed Bai Xiaoxiao and Lu Renfeng toward the dining hall. The dining hall was built a short distance from the hostel. Unlike the hostel, the layout of the dining hall was strange. Usually, a cafeteria is a single, massive open space where everyone eats together. But the dining hall in Qiyu village was divided into 3 floors, consisting entirely of numerous small, private, enclosed booths. While getting his food, Ningqiu Shui casually asked the woman serving the rice, "Auntie, are all the dining halls here separated into these little booths?" The woman serving the rice seemed caught off guard by the question. She froze for a moment. A flash of panic crossed her eyes before she stammered a reply. Yes. It used to be one big open hall, but then some tourists complained they didn't like it. And since tourism is the village's main source, we renovated it into these private rooms. Ningqiu Shui narrowed his eyes. Main source? Main source of what? The woman grew increasingly flustered under his sharp gaze. She averted her eyes and muttered, "Of economy. The economy, I think. Oh, I'm just a cook. I don't understand these things. You should ask the manager if you want to know more." Ningqiu Shui gave a subtle nod and offered a polite smile. "Thank you, Auntie." He carried his tray to a small booth on the left side of the first floor. Bai Xiaoxiao and Liu Renfeng were already seated, deep in conversation. Seeing Ningqiu Shui enter, Liu Renfeng immediately leaned forward and asked in a hushed voice, "Brother, did you hear that man screaming for help outside your window last night?" Ningqiu Shui set his tray down. "I heard it. It was the man who died in the courtyard this morning. First, he stumbled out of the forest. Then he started frantically clawing at his own throat. Finally, he ripped his own head off." Hearing Ningqiu Shui describe the horrific event with such chilling calmness made a fresh wave of cold sweat break out on Liu Renfeng's back. He ripped his own head off. How is that physically possible? Bai Xiaoxiao, picking at her food, answered with a lazy drawl. "Behind the crimson doors, the word impossible does not exist." Ningqiu Shui and I were definitely not the only ones who watched the show last night. After tearing his own head off, the man continued to scream in agony for a long time before he finally died. No one went out to save him, and it's a good thing no one did. God only knows what would have happened if they had. Her words made Liu Renfeng shudder violently. He could vividly imagine just how terrifying the scene must have been. But these two sitting across from him, how could they be so calm? He could understand Bai Xiaoxiao. She was a veteran. She had survived numerous crimson doors. But Ningqiu Shui, was his psychological makeup fundamentally abnormal? Then, why did he rip his own head off? Liu Renfeng asked cautiously. The 3 of them fell silent for a moment. Then, Ningqiu Shui reached into his shirt and pulled out a small wooden tablet. He placed it on the table. I don't know why he ripped his own head off, but I do know he definitely encountered something unclean in that mountain shrine behind the village. The other 2 stared at the wooden tablet. Their expressions instantly turned grave. It was a spirit tablet, a memorial plaque for the dead. "Brother, is this? I found it on his body." "Holy shit, that is incredibly cursed. You just picked it up with your bare hands?" Ningqiu Shui shook his head. He pulled out the blood-red jade pendant and placed it next to the spirit tablet. The jade did not glow. "I already checked. The tablet itself is harmless. The danger lies within the shrine it came from." Bai Xiaoxiao picked up the spirit tablet. She gently traced the engraved characters with her slender finger. Her beautiful eyes narrowed sharply. "Guangchuan." She whispered the name as if trying to recall a distant memory. Then she raised the tablet to her nose and took a light sniff. Her eyebrows arched slightly. "It has a scent. It smells like incense used for the dead." Liu Renfeng leaned in. "Let me smell it." Bai Xiaoxiao handed him the tablet. The moment Liu Renfeng took a sniff, his face drastically changed color. Seeing his alarmed reaction, the other 2 quickly asked, "What is it? Is something wrong?" Liu Renfeng's expression was incredibly serious. His voice was dry. "My martial uncle was a master of incense. Normally, when paying respects to the dead, people burn sandalwood, agarwood, camphor, or patchouli. These 7 types of orthodox incense are used to show respect from the living, but more importantly, their primary function is to ward off evil spirits. But the scent on this tablet is yin wood incense. It is specifically used to attract and summon malevolent entities. This type of incense, you can't buy it on the market. It is custom made by underground incense masters using dark, forbidden methods." He took another cautious sniff, confirming his horrifying deduction. The booth plunged into a suffocating silence. They all realized the terrifying truth about this village. The entities worshipped in the mountain shrine behind Qiyu village were not local deities or gods. They were the dead. And even more horrifying, someone was actively using yin wood incense to summon and feed these malevolent spirits. I told you, your crimson door was going to be an absolute nightmare. Bai Xiao muttered, a rare look of grim seriousness settling between her brows. The actual difficulty of this scenario is likely higher than a normal player's fourth or even fifth door. But it makes sense. If this place wasn't so saturated with darkness and unresolved grudges, it never could have spawned the monstrous, vengeful wraith you encountered in your first door. Remembering his own close call, Ningqiu Shui recounted the terrifying experience of the charred, crawling entity that had scuttled under his bed the previous night. Both Bai Xiao and Liu Renfeng shook their heads. They hadn't encountered anything like it in their rooms. However, Liu Renfeng's face grew even paler. This village was steeped in an unfathomable amount of dark energy. It seems we need to accelerate our pace. In exactly 6 days, the village will hold the shrine sacrifice. This is the time limit the Crimson Door has given us to find the exit. If we don't find the path to survival within these 6 days, when the sacrifice begins, something apocalyptic is going to happen. Bai Xiao smiled. It was a chilling, macabre smile that made the two men's skin crawl. All right, Sister Bai, the world behind the Crimson Doors is terrifying enough as it is. Stop trying to scare us. Where are we heading after we finish eating? Liu Renfeng raised his hands in mock surrender. Bai Xiao rolled her eyes. She put down her chopsticks and stood up. We start with the closest location. About 2 miles from here is a temple called the Fuoe Shrine. We can go check it out, and while we're at it, we can ask the villagers who exactly Guangchuan is. I have a very strong feeling that this dead man, Guangchuan, is the master key to unlocking this entire nightmare. The two men agreed. After finishing their meal, they returned to the hostel courtyard. Just as Bai Xiao had predicted, the headless corpse was gone. Even the massive pool of blood on the dirt had vanished without a trace. It looked as if nothing horrific had ever happened there. Inside the hostel lobby, Hao Kong was still sitting at the front desk, but he looked like a broken marionette. He sat rigidly at the desk, repeating the exact same 2 actions in an endless loop. Drink water. Answer the phone. Yes, understood. I will make the arrangements. Gulp, gulp. Yes, understood. I will make the arrangements. Gulp. Yes. Watching him for just a few minutes sent a violent shiver down their spines. Ningqiu Shui tried to speak with him, but no matter what he asked, Hao Kong simply maintained his fixed, eerie smile and replied, understood. Realizing they couldn't extract any information from the broken NPC, the 3 of them left the hostel. The glaring sunlight beat down on them, yet none of them felt the slightest bit of warmth. Holy shit, this place is too damn cursed, Liu Renfeng cursed, rubbing his arms to dispel the chill. Bai Xiao adjusted the straps of her backpack. This is only the beginning. The real horror hasn't even started. Just wait, your Crimson Door has barely cracked open. I just hope that when we finally leave this place, you aren't left with permanent psychological trauma. Fuoe Shrine. It was an exceedingly unusual ancestral hall. It was built deep within the dense forest, roughly 2 kilometers away from the main village. The forest was vast, serving as one of Qiyu village's primary natural attractions. Over the years, the villagers had painstakingly carved out clear hiking trails and erected numerous signposts, ensuring tourists could explore the woods without getting lost or encountering danger. They followed the winding trail eastward. 2 kilometers wasn't far. It took them roughly 20 minutes to reach their destination. Throughout the hike, Liu Renfeng remained on high alert. His eyes darted nervously at every rustling shadow, terrified the headless phantom might materialize from the trees. Fortunately, their journey was uneventful. They arrived at the Fuoe Shrine without incident. The bright, glaring sunlight filtering through the canopy helped dispel the lingering dread in their hearts. The shrine was exquisitely constructed. Even from a distance, it radiated an aura of profound solemnity and absolute tranquility. A wide drainage ditch ran alongside the structure. The rainy season had not yet arrived in full force, so the ditch was mostly dry. Jagged rocks jutted from the earth, and numerous wooden stakes swept down by previous floods lay half buried in the cracked mud. The three of them stepped through the shrine's main gate. The courtyard was empty, save for a frail old man slowly sweeping the stone path. A small, humble room stood adjacent to the courtyard. It appeared to be the old man's living quarters. The shrine was deathly quiet. Aside from the caretaker, the three of them saw absolutely no one else. "Grandpa!" Liu Renfeng called out loudly. The old man didn't react. He continued his slow, rhythmic sweeping. The three exchanged confused glances. As they drew closer, they realized the old man was severely hard of hearing. He was completely deaf in one ear, and they had to stand mere inches from his good ear and shout for him to register their voices. No wonder they stuck him out here in the middle of nowhere. Liu Renfeng sighed with a shake of his head. They shouted to the old man that they were tourists exploring the shrine. The old man smiled warmly, his face crinkling with deep wrinkles. He told them they were free to look around, as long as they didn't touch or disturb any of the religious artifacts inside. Bai Xiaoxiao leaned in close and asked if anyone else had visited the shrine yesterday. The old man squinted, trying to recall. He finally nodded, saying 2 people had come by late last night, around 8 or 9 o'clock, but they had left shortly after. Bai Xiaoxiao abruptly shifted the topic. "Grandpa, do you know the name Guangchuan?" The old man frowned. He tilted his good ear closer to Bai Xiaoxiao's mouth. "What boat?" Bai Xiaoxiao raised her voice, practically shouting directly into his ear. "Guangchuan, Guang as in vast, Chuan as in rivers and mountains." The moment the name registered, the color drained from the old man's face. He violently shook his head. "No, I don't know. I don't know. Never heard of it. I don't know him." He stuttered frantically, repeating the denial over and over, desperately trying to convince them, or perhaps himself, that he truly had no idea who Guangchuan was. Ning Chushui silently reached into his shirt. He pulled out the bloody spirit tablet bearing Guangchuan's name and thrust it directly in front of the old man's face. "Grandpa, look closely. Are you absolutely sure you don't know?" The second the old man's cloudy eyes locked onto the tablet, an expression of indescribable primal terror distorted his features. He let out a piercing shriek, dropped his broom, and bolted. As he ran, he babbled hysterically. "It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I don't know anything. Don't come looking for me." The frail old man sprinted blindly toward the edge of the courtyard. As he reached the dry drainage ditch, his foot caught on a thick patch of weeds. He tumbled forward, plunging headfirst into the ditch, and lay completely motionless. The three of them froze. A sickening premonition washed over them. They sprinted to the edge of the ditch and looked down. Their blood ran cold. The old man lay flat on his back, impaled upon a jagged, thick wooden stake protruding from the mud. The splintered wood had driven straight through his chest and out the back of his neck. Bright, crimson blood poured from the wound, pooling in the dry, cracked earth. His lifeless, cloudy eyes were blown wide, permanently frozen in a state of absolute terror, staring blankly up at the 3 people standing on the ledge. Liu Renfeng stumbled backward, his breath catching in his throat. "Holy shit, he's dead. He's actually dead?" The faces of the other 2 were equally grim. He clearly knew something. But whatever it was, he was too terrified to speak of it, Bai Xiaoxiao muttered. She turned to Ning Chushui. "Chushui, what are you thinking?" She saw Ning Chushui staring intensely at the old man's corpse, deep in thought. However, Ning Chushui shook his head. "I am thinking about the dining hall." Bai Xiaoxiao frowned, caught off guard by the non-sequitur. "The dining hall? What about the dining hall?" Ning Chushui lowered his voice. "Didn't you 2 find the layout of the dining hall incredibly strange?" They both nodded. Liu Renfeng scratched his head. "It's definitely weird, but who knows, maybe that's just the architectural style of their village?" Ning Chushui locked eyes with both of them. He asked a question that made their skin crawl. "What do you think are the chances that the building currently acting as the dining hall was actually the original hostel meant for tourists?" Liu Renfeng froze. He took a long, shuddering breath. "Holy shit. Brother, now that you mention it, that makes terrifying sense." A sharp glint appeared in Bai Xiaoxiao's eyes. "It doesn't just make sense, it is the truth. That dining hall has 3 floors, Aside from the central serving area, the entire building is compartmentalized into small enclosed rooms. They are the exact size of single-occupancy bedrooms. I thought it was bizarre when we were there, but I didn't make the connection. But now, it seems the pieces are starting to fit together. She slapped Ning Qiu Shui on the shoulder, her eyes full of genuine praise. Brilliant, Qiu Shui. It has been a long time since I met a man as meticulously observant as you. Ning Qiu Shui was rendered momentarily speechless by her half-joking compliment. Wait, was she praising me or insulting me? So the current situation is, the original tourist hostel was converted into a dining hall, and the villagers took a massive, abandoned building and rebranded it as the new hostel for us. Lu Renfeng deduced, the horror finally clicking into place. Ning Qiu Shui nodded grimly. Exactly. But why would they do that? I don't know, but that abandoned building is severely unclean. Whatever their reasoning, they harbor absolutely no good intentions toward us. As they spoke, they walked through several inner doors and entered the main hall of the shrine. Inside, resting prominently on the central altar, was an antique painting, a small bust and a corresponding plaque. The bust was cast from solid gold. Although it was only the size of a human palm, its value was undeniably immense. For a remote, isolated village like Qiyu, acquiring such an artifact was no small feat. Bai Xiaoxiao casually picked up the golden bust, inspected it for a moment, and set it back down. The three of them then turned their attention to the painting. The background depicted Qiyu village. However, the art style was incredibly old, likely dating back decades, if not a century or more. The painting portrayed a large man gripping a viciously curved sickle. He stood triumphantly, his heavy boot pressing down onto the back of another figure. 3 people were bound with thick ropes, kneeling in the dirt. They were a middle-aged man, a woman, and a young child. Behind the man with the sickle stood a massive crowd of villagers. Their faces were twisted in expressions of rabid, furious excitement. They were throwing their fists in the air, their mouths wide open in mid-shout, as if cheering for a brutal execution. What the hell is this? An uprising? Lu Renfeng stared at the painting, thoroughly confused. Bai Xiaoxiao leaned closer to the canvas. She extended a slender finger and gently traced the aged paper. A flicker of suspicion crossed her eyes. Something isn't right. Look closely at the background. Hearing this, the 2 men focused on the details behind the mob. They quickly noticed that the environment depicted in the painting was utterly desolate. The sun is glaring. The trees are completely withered and dead. The stream is bone dry. Is this a severe drought? Lu Renfeng exclaimed. Ning Qiu Shui's eyes widened. A terrifying realization struck him. He murmured the cryptic clue under his breath. The kind-hearted bled dry, turning into sweet rain. In that instant, a cold draft ran down Ning Qiu Shui's spine. He vaguely sensed that during the great drought that year, something horrific must have happened in the village. While Ning Qiu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao studied the painting, Lu Renfeng stepped aside to examine the accompanying plaque. It really was a drought. Hey, you 2 need to see this. Lu Renfeng had discovered something. His face paled as he called them over. They hurried to his side. When they looked at where he was pointing, they froze, right there. A new name was written. Guang Xiu. Another person with the surname Guang. Could he be related to Guang Chuan? Ning Qiu Shui's eyes sharpened. He quickly read the inscription on the plaque. The text detailed a grim history. Over 120 years ago, Qiyu village suffered a devastating 3-year drought. The streams dried up. The crops failed entirely. Even the wild vegetation on the mountains withered to dust. The entire village relied solely on an ancient well dug by their ancestors for water. A severe famine followed the drought. Seeing more and more people starving to death, the desperate villagers went to the home of Guang Xiu. He was the only wealthy landlord in the village at the time. They begged him for some of his reserve grain. Those who went to his manor never returned. The remaining villagers grew suspicious. They sneaked to Guang Xiu's estate. There they discovered a gruesome truth. Guang Xiu had slaughtered the starving beggars. He chopped up their bodies and fed them to his dogs. When the atrocity was exposed, the entire village erupted in absolute fury. Led by a middle-aged man named Ruan Kaihuang, the mob stormed the estate. They brutally murdered Guang Xiu on the spot. They then dragged his wife and child to the Yanyu shrine and locked them inside. The Yanyu shrine was built using the village's collective wealth, supposedly to pray for rain. The villagers offered annual tributes there, hoping for good weather. In reality, the shrine was nothing more than a tool for Guangxu to extort their money. Bizarrely, on the very night Guangxu was killed, a torrential downpour finally arrived. The Yanyu shrine was struck by lightning and burst into flames. Witnesses claimed the fire was not extinguished by the heavy rain. Instead, it burned with unnatural ferocity. Guangxu's wife and child were burned alive inside the shrine. The villagers declared it a sign from the heavens. The wicked had been punished. Under Ruan Kaiwang's leadership, the village gradually restored its stability. To commemorate his contributions, later generations cast a golden bust in his honor and built this very ancestral hall. That concluded the historical account. It seems the man holding the sickle in the painting is Ruan Kaihuang. The people bound on the ground are Guangxu and his family. If that is the case, Ningqi immediately pulled the wooden spirit tablet from his shirt. He stared at the name Guangchuan. His voice tightened with a sudden realization. Guangchuan, could he be the child of Guangxu who was burned to death? Bai Xiaoxiao nodded in agreement. It is highly likely. She paused, noticing a strange detail on the wall. She stepped closer to the plaque and inspected its edges. She pulled a small flashlight from her pocket and aimed the beam into the gaps. Her voice turned deadly serious. There is something behind this plaque. Ning Chushui and Liu Renfeng immediately moved closer. What is it? Bai Xiaoxiao's eyes flashed with intensity. I cannot see clearly, but there is a massive hollow space hidden inside the wall right behind this text. You two, step back. The two men realized her intention. Liu Renfeng's eyes widened in alarm. Sister Bai, do not act recklessly. Didn't the old caretaker warn us not to touch anything inside the shrine? Bai Xiaoxiao spoke with absolute calm. Relax, I know what I am doing. Seeing her unwavering resolve, they took a few steps back. Bai Xiaoxiao did not hesitate. She pulled a few coins from her pocket, selected one, and skillfully used it to turn the screws securing the heavy frame. The metal fasteners quickly came loose. Wow, you can unscrew things like that. Liu Renfeng watched in stunned silence. Once the screws were removed, Bai Xiaoxiao carefully lifted the heavy plaque away from the wall. Her suspicion was correct. A large, dark cavity was concealed behind the wood. The horrifying sight inside the hole made all three of them freeze in absolute shock. Packed tightly inside the cramped space were two violently contorted human corpses. The cavity was roughly 50 centimeters wide, high and deep. It defied all logic how two fully grown adult bodies had been folded and shoved into such a tiny box. The corpses wore expressions of unfathomable terror. They looked as if they had witnessed hell itself before dying. Their limbs were unnaturally tangled and knotted together. Their pale, bloodless faces stared blankly out from the darkness of the hole. It is them, Ning Chushui stated flatly. The other two looked at him. Brother, do you recognize them? Ning Chushui nodded with grim certainty. Remember what the deaf caretaker told us. 2 tourists came here last night between 8 and 9 o'clock. When we first entered the Crimson Door and gathered in the courtyard, I memorized their clothing. These two were just like us. They were ghost tenants from the outside world. I wondered this morning why we were missing 3 people when there was only 1 body in the dirt. Now we have the answer. The other 2 missing people are right here. Following Ning Chushui's deduction, Liu Renfeng swallowed hard. What kind of monster could do this to them? A suffocating silence fell over them. Logically, no human possessed the strength to do this. It was physically impossible to fold 2 bodies like noodles and cram them into a tiny box without leaving a single drop of blood behind. What horrific entity was capable of such a feat? As they stood paralyzed by the grisly discovery, a voice echoed from directly behind them. The sound made their blood run cold. I warned you. I told you not to touch anything inside the shrine. You people, why didn't you listen? The moment that horrifying voice echoed, the 3 of them felt their souls freeze. They slowly turned their heads. The dead old man had inexplicably appeared right behind them. This time he wasn't holding a broom. He gripped a pair of rusted, razor-sharp shears. He took a slow step toward them. The smile on his face grew increasingly twisted and grotesque. His deep wrinkles seemed to swallow his entire face. The freezing, deathly aura radiating from his body grew heavier by the second. They all knew the old man standing before them was no longer human. Realizing the lethal danger, they instinctively tried to run, but their legs refused to move. Their feet felt as if they had been filled with solid lead. They were impossibly heavy. Is this the power of a ghost? Ning Chushui felt a surge of glacial terror in his heart. They were too weak. Against a supernatural entity, they had almost zero ability to resist. Seeing the old man advance step by step with the shears, Bai Xiaoxiao suddenly spoke. "Grandpa, we did not mean to touch the items in the shrine, but Guangchuan strongly dislikes the things kept here. He is the one who told us to come." At the mention of the name Guangchuan, the old man's ferocious expression completely froze. A second later, absolute, unadulterated terror flooded his dead, cloudy eyes. He shifted his gaze and stared intensely at Bai Xiaoxiao. "What are you saying?" Bai Xiaoxiao's palms were slick with cold sweat. Her expression remained perfectly stoic. She continued to speak. "If you do not believe us, we can show you something." The moment she finished her sentence, Ning Chushui sensed the shift in the old man's aura. He immediately pulled out Guangchuan's spirit tablet. Seeing the wooden tablet, the old man reacted as if he had seen the devil himself. He let out a horrific, terrified shriek. He threw the shears to the ground, turned around and fled blindly into the dense forest. As his figure vanished, the paralyzing grip on the three of them finally shattered. Their bodies returned to normal. Cold sweat drenched their backs. They gasped for air. Lu Renfeng looked at Bai Xiaoxiao with genuine awe. "Sister Bai, you are truly something else." A few words were all it took to chase that old ghoul away. Bai Xiaoxiao let out a long, shaky breath. It was just a blind gamble. If it hadn't worked, I had other methods. But looking at the situation now, the history described on that plaque is likely a complete fabrication. Otherwise, that old ghost would not have been so terrified of the spirit tablet in Chu Shui's hand. If even the dead are afraid of him, it proves just how monstrous the resentment of this tablet's owner became after death. Ning Chushui stared at the spirit tablet. A chill ran down his spine. He carefully tucked it back into his shirt. "Let us go. We do not know when that old ghost might return, and it seems there are no other useful clues left here." After the delay at the shrine, noon had already arrived. They returned to the tourist rest area in the village and headed to the dining hall to get their food. Just as they picked up their trays, a woman wearing tight jeans walked over. Her movements were graceful but calculated. "Do you three have a moment?" Ning Chushui and Lu Renfeng did not answer. Bai Xiaoxiao offered a polite smile. "We do. How can we help you?" The woman in jeans extended her hand. "My name is Tang Jiao. Would you like to join us for a meeting? Most of the other Crimson Door participants are already there." Bai Xiaoxiao hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. "All right." She followed Tang Jiao to a larger private room on the second floor. 4 other Crimson Door participants were already seated inside. Ning Chushui scanned the room. He furrowed his brow. Why are 3 people missing? The moment he asked the question, the faces of the 2 men sitting across the table turned a ghastly shade of pale. Judging by their expressions, it was obvious the missing 3 were never coming back. What happened? Care to share? Perhaps Bai Xiaoxiao's stunning beauty helped ease the tension. When she asked the question in a gentle tone, one of the men slowly opened his mouth. "It is a nightmare." The 3 of them decided to cross the forest together. They went to the mountain shrine behind the village to look for the path to survival. We tried to stop them, but they insisted on going. They promised they would return within an hour, regardless of whether they found any clues at the shrine. That mountain is not high. It has neatly built stone steps. Walking up and down is easy and takes less than 10 minutes. However, we waited at the bottom for nearly 3 hours. We never saw them. We assumed they had run into trouble on the mountain, just as we were debating whether to go up and save them. The man stopped. Pure terror bulged in his eyes. He looked as if he was reliving a scene from hell. He suddenly clamped a hand over his mouth and began to dry heave violently. His companion next to him appeared slightly more composed, but his face was completely devoid of color. Seeing the man's physical reaction, no one rushed him. They waited in grim silence. After the dry-heaving man finally managed to control his stomach spasms, he spoke. His voice was raw and hoarse. While we were debating whether to go up or leave, something suddenly rolled down from the mountain path. It nearly hit us. When the objects finally rolled to a stop on the dirt, we saw what they were. They were the corpses of our 3 companions. Hearing this, the air left the room. Everyone stopped breathing. A suffocating silence took over. The dry-heaving man stared blankly at the table. He muttered in a manic daze. They looked exactly like the corpse outside the hostel this morning. Exactly the same. Their heads were ripped off. It is a ghost. It is definitely a ghost. There is a monster in that mountain shrine. Seeing him become hysterical, his companion slapped him hard across the face. He forced a bottle of cold water to his lips. After choking down a few gulps of cold water, the man finally calmed down. He stared at the wooden table without saying another word. A long time passed before Tang Jiao let out a heavy sigh. You have all seen the current situation. I do not know what is wrong with this crimson door. It is only a 2nd-level door, yet the difficulty is unimaginably high. To be completely honest, I am a veteran player. I have survived 5 crimson doors. I took a job to guide rookies this time. But this door is too difficult. It is even harder than the 5th door I barely survived. If we do not unite and cooperate, it is highly likely we will all be wiped out this time. Hearing the phrase wiped out, the faces of everyone present, except for Ningqiu Shui, Bai Xiaoxiao, and Liu Renfeng, drastically changed color. Cooperation is perfectly fine, of course, but what kind of cooperation did you have in mind? Bai Xiaoxiao crossed her legs and propped her chin on her hand, blinking innocently at Tang Jiao. Tang Jiao seemed irritated by Bai Xiaoxiao's casual, assessing gaze. She frowned slightly. Her instincts screamed that this beautiful woman was not a rookie, and veterans were never easy to manipulate. Cooperation is very straightforward. Our absolute top priority is finding the path to survival before the 6-day time limit expires. Before entering this scenario, I am sure you all received the Crimson Door's clue, but relying solely on that vague riddle will not get us out alive. We need to gather more concrete clues. And those clues are scattered across the various tourist attractions within this village. Tang Jiao swept her gaze across the silent room. Her voice was firm and carried an undeniable tone of command. I propose we split into groups of 2 or 3. Each group will investigate a different attraction. Assuming no major accidents, we can sweep every location and gather all the clues within a day or 2. This is the safest and most efficient method to find the exit. The faster we find the path to survival, the fewer people will die. After she finished her pitch, a timid young woman raised her hand and asked in a trembling voice, "Then, those tourist attractions, are there ghosts there?" Everyone looked over. It was Feng, the terrified woman who had been shoved toward the headless corpse that morning. She was paralyzingly timid. She had stayed locked in her hostel room all day, only venturing out for meals. Tang Jiao's voice turned ice cold. "This is the world behind the crimson doors. What do you think?" Feng's face drained of all color. Then can I choose not to go?" Her voice cracked, on the verge of tears. But Tang Jiao showed zero sympathy. "Of course you can. However, if you refuse to contribute, we will not share the survival clues we risked our lives to gather with you." Hearing the ultimatum, panic seized Feng. "No, I will go. I'll go." Even as a rookie, having barely survived her first Crimson Door, she knew exactly what those clues meant. She knew what happened to those who didn't have them. Behind the Crimson Doors, ignorance meant death. Finding the exit was the only way to survive. Seeing no further objections, Tang Jiao nodded in satisfaction. "Since everyone agrees, let us form our groups and begin the search. Night falls here around 7 p.m., but do not worry. As long as you return to the hostel before midnight, the chances of encountering fatal danger are relatively low." In reality, the groups formed naturally. Those who already knew each other stuck together, and the remaining few awkwardly paired up. There are 8 of us left, forming 3 groups. My team has already investigated Feng Hall this morning. We secured the clue there, so no one else needs to go. There are 4 remaining attractions. Discuss among yourselves. Each group takes 1 location today. If we return late, We will convene in the dining hall tomorrow morning to exchange what we found." The moment Tang Jiao finished, Bai Xiaoxiao spoke up with her trademark lazy drawl. "We also investigated an attraction this morning and secured a crucial clue." "Oh," Tang Jiao's eyes narrowed. "Where did you go?" "The Fuoyi Shrine." Hearing the name, a strange, calculating glint flashed in Tang Jiao's eyes. She immediately made an unreasonable demand. "In that case, your group will investigate another major attraction this afternoon." The moment the words left her mouth, Liu Renfeng slammed his hand on the table. He glared at her. "Why the hell should we? Why don't you go?" Tang Jiao crossed her arms. Her expression was imperious and cold. "You want to know why? Fine, I will tell you why. First, the clue I secured was at Feng Hall. That is the furthest location from the hostel. A round trip takes nearly 2 hours. That means my group faced the highest probability of encountering an accident. We took the most dangerous route. Second, my group has also decided to investigate the Fuoyi Shrine this afternoon. I took the lead by handling the most dangerous task, and now I have to double-check your work to ensure you didn't miss anything. Asking you to investigate one more location is hardly unreasonable, is it?" Liu Renfeng opened his mouth to argue, but Ning Chushui grabbed his arm, shooting him a warning look. He signaled the chef to stay silent. Bai Xiaoxiao offered a bright, entirely fake smile. "It's not unreasonable at all." "Then it is settled." After a brief discussion among the groups, Bai Xiaoxiao declared they would investigate the Bu Hei well that afternoon. It was an ancient, dry well. According to village lore, it was the only water source that kept the villagers alive during the Great Drought. It was also the second furthest attraction, located less than half a kilometer away from Feng Hall. Once the meeting disbanded and they were alone, Liu Renfeng finally exploded with indignation. "Why did we agree to that? That bitch preaches cooperation, but she acts like she's ordering us around. Just looking at her pisses me off." Bai Xiaoxiao glanced at him. "Do you want to live or do you want to die?" Liu Renfeng scoffed. "Live, obviously." Bai Xiaoxiao turned away. "Then shut your mouth and follow me." Liu Renfeng rolled his eyes. "Seriously, are you two cowards? I understand being afraid of ghosts, but letting a person walk all over you." Before he could finish his rant, Ning Chushui cut him off. That woman Tang Jiao was lying. Liu Renfeng froze, completely bewildered. "Huh? Lying? Brother, how do you know?" Ning Chushui's eyes were sharp and cold. "Keep an eye on the time. Once we reach the Buhi well, you will understand." Liu Renfeng stared at his watch, his brain working overtime. Then, realization dawned on him like a physical blow. "Brother, you mean that bitch Tang Jiao never went to Feng Hall?" Bai Xiaoxiao chimed in. "Think about it. Where would she find the time? The round trip takes roughly 2 hours, and that is assuming you don't encounter any emergencies or have to search for clues. It took us the entire morning just to investigate the Fuoyi Shrine. Do you honestly think Tang Jiao went to Feng Hall last night? If she didn't go last night, she had zero time to do it this morning. We literally saw her standing outside the hostel when we left for breakfast a little after 8 a.m. Liu Renfeng finally understood the depth of the deception. Tang Jiao had lied to the entire group, manipulating them into doing her dirty work. Holy shit, that bitch is using us as cannon fodder. Liu Renfeng cursed violently. I fear it is not that simple. Her lies and concealments likely run much deeper than just dodging a hike. That woman is extremely dangerous. Bai Xiaoxiao's icy words sent a profound chill through the two men. Liu Renfeng swallowed hard. Sister Bai, what else did you figure out? Bai Xiaoxiao shook her head, a dark, unsettling smile playing on her lips. What if I told you that the 2 people who died at the Fuoyi Shrine and the 3 who were decapitated on the mountain were highly likely sent there on her direct orders? Liu Renfeng's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Absolute shock and horror washed over him. Holy Mother of God, that venomous snake. Why? Why would she do that? Her motives are still unclear right now. Bai Xiaoxiao glanced at Ning Chushui. He kept his head down, remaining silent, seemingly lost in thought. Regardless, we have to rely on ourselves to gather clues. We still have plenty of time today. Let's head to the furthest location first, so we aren't under too much pressure in the coming days. The three of them followed the signposts through the dense forest until they reached the Buhe well. The ancient well sat amidst a grove of lush green bamboo. Its rim was heavily coated in green moss, surrounded by overgrown weeds. Aside from a wooden informational plaque planted next to it, there was nothing else. It looked as though no one had visited this place in a very long time. The inscription on the wooden plaque detailed the ancient history of the well, naturally bringing up the events of the great drought from years past. It spoke of Ruan Kaihuang and Guangshu. The villagers here sure are grateful. Liu Renfeng remarked sarcastically. He walked up to the well and peered down into the water. Ning Chushui and Bai Xiaoxiao stood before the wooden plaque, studying it intently for a long time. "Any thoughts?" Bai Xiaoxiao asked. She was deeply intrigued by this rookie, Ning Chushui. His psychological fortitude, even among veterans who had survived 4 or 5 Crimson Doors, was considered top tier. "I have a very bad feeling about this," Ning Chushui said, his tone grave. "Do you remember when we first met Hao Kong? He told us that if we encountered anything strange, we should go find Granny Ruan, the village shaman." Bai Xiaoxiao pondered this. "You mean the surname Ruan?" Ning Chushui nodded. "Exactly. They share the same surname. This Granny Ruan is highly likely a descendant of Ruan Kaihuang. Whatever happened in this village back then is definitely not as simple as what is recorded here. The villagers are absolutely hiding the truth. Remember the clue the Crimson Door gave us? The kind-hearted bled dry, turning into sweet rain. What if, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, what if Guangshu, the man who was butchered and fed to the dogs, was actually a good man?" He was about to elaborate, but he caught sight of Liu Renfeng out of the corner of his eye. His face drastically changed color. He lunged toward the well, grabbing Liu Renfeng just as the chef was about to throw himself in. "Brother Liu, are you insane?" Ning Chushui roared, but Liu Renfeng seemed entirely deaf to his shouts. His eyes were glazed and dead. His hands gripped the mossy rim of the well tightly as he forced his body over the edge, muttering incoherently. "So thirsty. I am so thirsty. Let me have a sip. Just one sip." Ning Chushui was not weak. Years of intense physical training gave him excellent stamina and strength. Yet even so, he could only slow Liu Renfeng's descent. He couldn't stop him entirely. Just as Liu Renfeng's upper body was about to vanish into the Buhe well, Bai Xiaoxiao's voice rang out from behind. "Chushui, hold on a little longer." "Got it." Ning Chushui gritted his teeth, practically turning his own body into a human anchor, desperately hauling back the madman trying to hurl himself into the abyss. But even that wasn't enough. Ning Chushui felt that if this continued, he would be dragged down into the well along with him. Had it been anyone else, Ning Chushui would have let go long ago. But during their first Crimson Door, when the matron in the red dress had him by the throat on the 3rd floor, Liu Renfeng had risked his own life to save him. So Ning Chushui did not let go. He clamped his jaw shut, his normally composed face flushed crimson with exertion, his muscles straining to their absolute breaking point. Seeing Liu Renfeng about to plummet, Bai Xiaoxiao finally pulled out an ancient, blood-stained bronze mirror. She swept past them and angled the mirror directly down into the well. "Ah!" An agonizing shriek erupted from the pitch-black depths of the well. In that exact same split second, Liu Renfeng snapped out of it and screamed, "Holy shit! Brother, pull me up! Hurry!" Freed from the invisible, supernatural pull, Ning Chushui's explosive strength kicked in. He practically grabbed the 72-kilogram chef by the waist and hurled him backward. Liu Renfeng rolled several times across the dirt, finally coming to a stop on a pile of dead leaves. He lay there gasping for air, his face completely drained of color. Seeing Liu Renfeng break free from the entity's grasp, Bai Xiaoxiao quickly put the mirror away. As she stowed it, Ning Chushui's sharp eyes noticed a few fresh, jagged cracks on the already ancient bronze surface. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Bai Xiaoxiao waved it off dismissively. That is the reality behind the Crimson Doors. One moment of carelessness and you fall right into a trap. That's why, in the later stages, everyone prefers to travel in groups of 2 or 3. If something goes wrong, someone is there to pull you back from the edge. As she spoke, her eyes darkened slightly. It was only for a fraction of a second before she masked it. But Ning Chushui saw it. He knew Bai Xiaoxiao was likely thinking of her deceased best friend. In this fog dimension, becoming close friends or brothers in arms meant forging a bond forged through life and death. The sudden loss of such a companion was undeniably a devastating blow. But Ning Qiushui didn't press the matter. He simply looked down at Liu Renfeng lying on the ground. The chef seemed to have returned to his senses, though his face was paper white and his eyes were wide with lingering terror. "Brother Liu, what happened to you just now?" Liu Renfeng slowly turned his head, cold sweat pouring down his face. "I just looked down into the well. At first it was just a pool of stagnant water, nothing else. But then, dead faces started floating up to the surface. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. Then, they climbed up from the bottom, grabbed my hands, and tried to drag me in." A cold wind rustled through the bamboo grove, sending a chill down all three of their spines. But Liu Renfeng's expression shifted slightly. It felt like they were suddenly burned by something right after. "When I broke free, I saw one of the dead holding something glowing in its hand, so I snatched it away." The eyes of the other two lit up. "What is it?" Liu Renfeng opened his hand. Lying in his palm was a fragmented wooden tag tied with a frayed red string. He used his shirt to wipe away the grime covering it, revealing a large carved character. "Run! Run! What is this?" "I thought it was something important," Liu Renfeng muttered in disgust. Bai Xiaoxiao smiled beside him. "It is incredibly important. Managing to grab this actually confirms the theory we were just discussing." Liu Renfeng looked utterly confused. "What theory?" Neither of them answered him. "It seems this Granny Run really is a massive problem," Ning Chui said. He suddenly glanced deep into the bamboo grove. His expression hardened, and he dropped his voice to an urgent whisper. "Hurry! Someone is coming! Hide!" The three of them ran in the opposite direction, ducking behind several large boulders in the bamboo grove that provided solid cover. As the distant shadow slowly drew closer, they finally saw what it was. The entity approaching the Buhi well was a headless man. "Holy shit!" Liu Renfeng cursed under his breath. His heart, which had just begun to calm down, violently seized up again. Just how many unclean entities were infesting this village? Their first Crimson Door might have been a hellscape, but at least there was only one primary wraith, and it generally only hunted at night. But Qiyu village was entirely different. This place was truly crawling with foul spirits, and they could attack in broad daylight without the slightest hesitation. The three of them didn't dare breathe heavily. They watched the headless corpse walk straight to the edge of the well, pick up the wooden bucket and drop it down the shaft. Then, it began to draw water. But as the headless corpse slowly hauled the heavy bucket up, it wasn't filled with water. Inside was a rotting human skull. The corpse lifted the skull with both hands and placed it upon its severed neck. The dead, cloudy eyes on the rotting skull darted around frantically. However, a second later, the headless body removed the skull, tossed it aside, and repeated the entire process. This bizarre, macabre ritual continued for half an hour. Finally, as if sensing something, the headless corpse stopped drawing water. It turned around and walked back the way it came, leaving 14 rotting skulls lined up along the edge of the ancient well. From behind the large boulder, Liu Renfeng slowly poked his head out and peeked. "What the hell? What was it doing? Counting its inventory?" No one answered him. Ning Qiushui leaned his back against the boulder, his eyes slightly vacant as he muttered. The benevolent was decapitated, granting peace. He felt he was on the verge of grasping something crucial. But just then, Liu Renfeng, who was still peering out, let out a terrified yelp. "Holy Mother of God! Guys, look! These heads!" Sensing Liu Renfeng's sudden panic, the other two cautiously looked toward the ancient well. The sight made their blood run freezing cold. The 14 rotting skulls on the well's edge had somehow turned around. They were all staring directly at the boulder where the three of them were hiding. Their dead, cloudy eyes emitted a faint, sickly green glow, and sinister, twisted smiles were plastered across their decaying faces. It looked as if, at any given second, the skulls would launch themselves through the air and eat them alive. "It's so cold down here. Come with us. Come with us. Be with us. Together. Never separate." The skulls chanted in an eerie, emotionless unison. the voices drilled into their ears like a vile curse. Hey, should we? Just as Lu Renfeng tremblingly asked they should run, he realized there was no one beside him. He turned his head and saw that Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao were already 10 meters away, sprinting for their lives. Damn it! Lu Renfeng was dumbfounded. He immediately bolted after them. Hey, wait for me! You didn't even say a word before bailing? That's messed up. The three of them sprinted for several hundred meters through the dense foliage. They didn't stop until a raised stone platform appeared in a clearing ahead of them. Lu Renfeng leaned heavily against a nearby tree, gasping for air. You two are unbelievable. You could have at least given a signal. Ningqiu Shui shot him a glance and shook his head. Brother Lu, be a bit sharper next time. If you don't run in a situation like that, are you just going to wait to die? Remembering the horrific scene, Lu Renfeng couldn't help but shudder. But what was the deal with that headless corpse? Was it looking for its own head? Ningqiu Shui answered thoughtfully. It was wearing what looked like a monk's kasaya. Even though it was covered in blood, it didn't radiate the same heavy, malicious energy as the other wraiths we've encountered. It felt like it was simply searching for its head. At the mention of a monk's robe, Bai Xiaoxiao and Lu Renfeng instantly recalled the benevolent from the Crimson Door's clue. Could it be that the headless corpse is the benevolent one? Ningqiu Shui rubbed his chin. Likely. But I don't know if he decapitated himself, or if someone else did it. He then shifted the topic. Also, do you still have that wooden tag you snatched from the entity in the well? Lu Renfeng nodded. He pulled out the fragmented wooden tag and handed it over. Sister Bai said this thing is incredibly important, so I kept it safe. Ningqiu Shui held the tag. He stared intently at the carved character, Ruan, before suddenly asking a cryptic question. Tell me, do you think the people of the Ruan family are the kind-hearted, or are they the benevolent? The two exchanged a look. Neither answered him. They didn't have the answer either. After studying it for a moment, Ningqiu Shui tucked the wooden tag into his shirt. This thing is cursed, Brother Lu. I'll hold on to it for you. Lu Renfeng shrugged. No problem. If you want it, take it. Having secured the item, the three of them looked around. A wooden signpost confirmed their current location. Did we arrive at Feng Hall? Lu Renfeng muttered, his gaze fixed on the raised platform in the distance. It was called a high platform, but it wasn't actually that tall. Thick vines crawled over the bluestone, intertwining symbiotically with a black algae that spread outward from a central pool. The dark, stringy algae looked unnervingly like human hair. There were 9 stone steps leading up, surrounded by thick, heavily rusted iron chains. In the center of the platform was a square pool, roughly 4 square meters in size. This was Feng Hall. Hey brother, Sister Bai, what do you think? Is there something weird hiding inside the pool up there? Having recovered from the earlier scare, Lu Renfeng's courage seemed to be returning. Both of them shook their heads. Be extremely careful. This place, it feels incredibly wrong. Bai Xiaoxiao's voice grew grim. A visible tension tightened her beautiful features. The fine hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. Even though nothing overtly supernatural was happening around them, her instincts screamed that something was deeply amiss. In truth, the moment she stepped into this clearing, a freezing chill had washed over her. She rarely felt this level of innate, primal dread. Holy shit! While Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao were searching the perimeter for an informational plaque, Lu Renfeng suddenly cried out. They snapped their heads toward him. Lu Renfeng's face was pale. He was staring intently at the black algae covering the ground, his eyes wide with shock and suspicion. Brother Lu, what's wrong? Ningqiu Shui asked urgently. Lu Renfeng stammered, pointing a shaking finger. Just now, I saw the black algae on the ground. It looked like it was moving. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Before he could even finish his sentence, the three of them heard a violent bubbling sound coming from the square pool on the raised platform. It sounded exactly like boiling water. The three of them were instantly paralyzed by the horrifying sound erupting from Feng Hall. The violent bubbling from the square pool grew increasingly frantic, as if something submerged within was fighting its way to the surface. Their eyes were glued to the raised stone platform. Their hearts hammered wildly against their ribs. Back away! Bai Xiaoxiao hissed. They slowly began to retreat. But in the next second, they realized the thick black algae beneath their feet was squirming. The damp, stringy tendrils slithered up their ankles with terrifying speed, locking them firmly in place. Holy shit! Liu Renfeng's eyes bulged. He frantically tore at the black algae wrapping around his legs, but the tendrils possessed an unnatural, impossible strength. No matter how hard he pulled, they wouldn't budge. It felt as if they had rooted themselves directly into his flesh. A few feet away, Bai Xiaoxiao thrust her hand into her backpack, desperately searching for something. But before she could retrieve it, a horrifying, blood-red silhouette slowly rose from the center of the bubbling pool. The three of them stared up at the crimson figure. The blood in their veins turned to ice. It was a flayed human skin. The skin of a woman, drenched in fresh, glistening blood. The entire surface of the skin was covered in thousands of deep, jagged cuts, as if she had been subjected to the agonizing torture of death by 1,000 cuts. And the black algae binding their feet, they finally realized what it was. It was the woman's hair. Holy Mother of God. That was all Liu Renfeng could manage to squeak out. He couldn't say another word. Every single pore on his body felt as if it were leaking freezing air. After rising from the water, the empty, hollow eye sockets of the flayed skin shifted. The invisible gaze locked onto the three people trapped at the base of the platform. Slap! Slap! The empty, bloody feet slapped against the stone steps. With every step the skin took, thick drops of crimson blood splattered against the blue stone, staining it red. It slowly descended toward Ningqiu Shui, who was standing closest to the steps. The invisible eyes radiating from the hollow sockets were filled with apocalyptic resentment and unfathomable, agonizing sorrow. The descent only took a few seconds, but to the paralyzed group it felt like an eternity. Every passing second was pure psychological torture. Finally, the flayed skin stopped directly in front of Ningqiu Shui. By this point, all three of them were completely immobilized. Cold sweat soaked Bai Xiaoxiao's clothes. She possessed a ghost artifact that could protect her life, meaning the wraith couldn't kill her instantly. But her arms were currently bound tightly by the prehensile hair. She couldn't reach her artifact to save Ningqiu Shui. She could only watch in horror as the bloody, empty finger of the flayed skin slowly reached out and pressed directly against the center of Ningqiu Shui's forehead. Ugh! Ningqiu Shui felt the icy grip of imminent death. A freezing chill radiated from his forehead and rapidly spread throughout his entire body. He struggled frantically against his bindings. Following the freezing chill came an explosion of unimaginably excruciating pain. Ningqiu Shui felt as if his entire body was being violently ripped apart. It felt as if 1,000 invisible, rusted blades were slowly slicing his skin, carving away his flesh, scraping his bones, and ripping out his internal organs. Initially, he gritted his teeth, desperately trying to endure the agony. But as the horrific, phantom torture intensified and saturated every nerve ending in his body, Ningqiu Shui finally broke. He let out a blood-curdling scream of pure agony. The violent convulsion accompanying his scream momentarily loosened the grip of the hair binding him. His body jerked violently to the side. Something slipped from his shirt pocket and hit the ground. Clack! It wasn't a loud sound, but in the dead silence of the bamboo grove, it echoed sharply. They all heard it, and the flayed woman heard it too. It was the bloody spirit tablet bearing the name Guangchuan. The invisible gaze of the wraith snapped down to the wooden tablet. The entity froze. It slowly withdrew its bloody finger from Ningqiu Shui's forehead. A thick strand of black hair slithered forward, wrapped around the tablet, and lifted it into the entity's empty hand. The flayed skin stared at the tablet for a very long time. It seemed lost in a distant, agonizing memory. It stopped moving entirely. Ningqiu Shui collapsed, gasping for air. He saw the profound, bottomless sorrow radiating from the entity. A sudden realization struck him. Ignoring the lingering, phantom pain tearing through his muscles, he roared at the wraith. I am not from this village. I came here to find the truth. What really happened here during the famine? How did Guangshu's family, how did they actually die? You know the truth. Tell me. At Ningqiu Shui's desperate questions, the flayed skin slowly raised its head. But the aura radiating from it was still thick with terrifying, lethal coldness. It stared silently at Ningqiu Shui. A long moment passed. The bloody lips of the flayed skin curled upward, forming a grotesque, horrifying smile. A sound tore from its throat. It was a ghastly, wretched noise that sounded like a mixture of weeping and manic laughter. "Bring her to me! Bring her to me!" After shrieking the demand twice, the bloody skin suddenly launched itself backward like a kite caught in a gale. It flew up the stone steps and plunged back into the square pool of Feng Hall. Instantly, all the black algae binding them rapidly receded, slithering back up the platform and returning to its original state. It was as if the nightmare had never happened. Thud! Ning Chushui's legs gave out. He collapsed toward the dirt. Fortunately, Bai Xiaoxiao was quick enough to catch him. "Chushui, are you all right?" she asked, genuine concern in her voice. Both of these men were members of her ghost dwelling, and both possessed incredible potential. She desperately wanted them to survive. Ning Chishui gasped for air, his face deathly pale. He weakly waved his hand. It felt as if every bone in his body had been shattered. He tried to stand on his own a few times, but his legs refused to hold his weight. "I'll carry you." Without another word, Liu Renfeng stepped forward and hauled Ning Chishui onto his broad back. "Brother, don't worry. I won't abandon you. From now on, I am your legs. If you tell me to go east, I absolutely will not go west." Ning Chishui gave a weak nod. He took a few slow, stabilizing breaths and pointed a trembling finger toward the raised platform. "Take me up there. I need to look inside Feng Hall." Liu Renfeng stared at the stone platform. He remembered the horrifying, bloody skin that had just emerged from it. He stood in absolute silence for 3 seconds. Then he slowly lowered Ning Chushui back to the ground, grabbed his own calf, and began to wail dramatically. "Oh God, it's no use, brother! My leg is cramping! It's a severe cramp." The other two stared at his pathetic acting and rolled their eyes simultaneously. "Relax," Ning Chushui said weakly. "If that wraith wanted to kill us, we would already be dead. Well, at least you and I would be. She demanded our help. That means she won't kill us right now. This is a crucial opportunity." Liu Renfeng let out a long, defeated sigh. He looked at Ning Chushui with a deeply complicated expression. "I don't know what kind of horrific sins I committed in my past life to end up with a suicidal maniac like you for a teammate." Despite his grumbling, he hoisted Ning Chushui back onto his shoulders. He cautiously climbed the stone steps, one by one, until they reached the top of the platform. Bai Xiaoxiao followed closely behind them. When they reached the edge of the square pool and looked down into the water, all three of them froze in absolute horror. Lord above! The gruesome sight made Liu Renfeng's legs turn to jelly. He nearly dropped Ning Chushui into the water. Seeing the contents of the pool, they finally understood the purpose of the heavy iron chains surrounding the platform. Submerged in the dark water was a complete human skin. Its 4 limbs were pierced by 4 thick iron hooks attached to the chains, pinning the skin spread eagle, face up toward the sky. The arms, legs, chest, abdomen, and cheeks of the skin were covered in thousands of deep surgical cuts, and resting directly beneath the pinned skin, at the very bottom of the pool, was a complete adult human skeleton. This woman had been chained inside Feng Hall while she was still alive, and then she had been meticulously flayed and her bones scraped clean. Lord above, what did she do to deserve such a brutal death? Liu Renfeng's lips trembled uncontrollably. He simply couldn't fathom the level of barbaric, agonizing torture the wraith had endured while she was still alive. To be chained inside a freezing pool, her limbs pierced by iron hooks, slowly flayed alive, and her bones scraped clean of flesh. Just the thought of it made his blood run cold. "Let's go." Ning Chushui seemed to have grasped something crucial. He asked Liu Renfeng to help him down from the raised platform. Once they reached the dirt, he patted Liu Renfeng's shoulder, signaling him to put him down. After resting for a moment, the phantom pain subsided slightly, and he felt capable of walking on his own. "Are you sure you're all right, brother?" Liu Renfeng asked, still deeply concerned and skeptical. Ning Chushui waved his hand weakly. "I don't think I suffered any actual physical damage, but my entire body aches. It felt exactly as if invisible knives were slicing my flesh and scraping my bones." Liu Renfeng and Bai Xiaoxiao exchanged a sharp look. They instantly understood. The wraith had subjected Ningqiu Shui to the exact same execution method the villagers had used to butcher her. If Guangchuan's spirit tablet hadn't coincidentally fallen out and diverted the wraith's attention, Ningqiu Shui would likely be dead right now. Judging by her reaction, it seems she knew Guangchuan. Even the usually blunt Li Renfeng had noticed the profound, unnatural sorrow in the wraith's invisible eyes when she held the spirit tablet. Bai Xiaoxiao looked at Li Renfeng in mild surprise, offering a teasing smirk. I didn't expect a big, rough guy like you to have such a delicate sense of observation. Li Renfeng snorted proudly. I may be rough on the outside, but I'm sharp on the inside. Ningqiu Shui spoke up, his voice steady. It's not just a simple acquaintance. She is definitely Guangchuan's family member, either his wife or his mother. Personally, I lean toward the latter. Li Renfeng drew a sharp breath. So, the great drought that hit the village back then really did involve dark, unspeakable secrets that the villagers intentionally erased from the records. But the wraith in Fangkun Hall demanded we bring her to the pool. Who is she? Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao exchanged a look. Bai Xiaoxiao nodded slowly, then shook her head. It's getting late. We should head back first. It will be dark soon. The dark energy in this village is astronomically high. Wandering around at night is suicide. The two men agreed with her assessment. It wasn't technically late yet, but the hike back to the hostel would take at least an hour. Carrying a heavy burden of unanswered questions, the three of them began their trek back. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any other supernatural anomalies in the forest. By the time they returned to the hostel, it was nearly dinner time. Ningqiu Shui and Li Renfeng briefly freshened up in their rooms before knocking on Bai Xiaoxiao's door to head to the dining hall. However, Bai Xiaoxiao stood in her doorway, her expression grim. She didn't step out to join them. What's wrong, Sister Bai? Ningqiu Shui asked, noticing her unusual demeanor. Bai Xiaoxiao offered a cold, dangerous smile. After we left this afternoon, someone broke into my room. She pulled out her black UV flashlight and shined the beam onto her floor. On the seemingly clean floorboards, a distinct set of messy footprints was illuminated. Though chaotic, it was clear they belonged to two different people. The eyes of the two men darkened instantly. This is... Bai Xiaoxiao's eyes flashed with a predatory glint. This morning, when Chu Shui mentioned the charred wraith searching his room last night, I took note of it. This hostel is definitely unclean, but we cannot rule out the human element. So after lunch, I sprinkled a layer of specialized tracing powder across the floor of my room. I did the same in yours. She stepped out, holding the flashlight, and traced the glowing footprints down the hallway. The trail revealed the chilling truth. All three of their rooms had been breached. Furthermore, based on the shape and size of the glowing prints, the intruder was the exact same person. Size 35 shoes, highly likely a woman, Bai Xiaoxiao deduced, casting a sidelong glance at Ningqiu Shui. It seems we've found the reason why a certain unlucky someone was targeted by the charred wraith on the very first night. Ningqiu Shui remained silent, his head lowered in deep thought. Li Renfeng, however, couldn't contain his fury. He clenched his fists, rage exploding in his chest. Motherfucker! Which piece of shit is trying to get us killed for no reason? If I catch them, I'll... Bai Xiaoxiao looked at the enraged chef and spoke with unnerving calmness. You'll do what? Kill her? I... Li Renfeng choked on his words, instantly deflated by Bai Xiaoxiao's icy tone. I am warning you right now, you absolutely must not kill anyone with your own hands behind the crimson doors. Why not? Because anyone who dies behind the crimson doors will absolutely turn into a ghost. Li Renfeng stopped breathing. Bai Xiaoxiao continued, her voice dead serious. Those who commit suicide, or those killed by the native entities, transform into neutral spirits. They don't actively interfere with the scenario's mechanics. But if a person is murdered by another player and turns into a ghost, it is an entirely different story. They harbor immense, violent resentment. They will immediately seek vengeance against their killer, and they can even drag innocent bystanders down with them. Seeing Bai Xiaoxiao's deadly serious expression, Li Renfeng swallowed hard. The murderous intent born from his rage evaporated entirely, but a second later his frustration boiled over again. Then we can't just sit here and wait to die. We're being played like fools. We can't just take this lying down. Bai Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes and sighed. You really are a hothead. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Can't you be patient? Li Renfeng seemed to realize his impotent rage made him look foolish. He scratched his head, looking slightly embarrassed. Right, I was too rash. I apologize. At that moment, Ning Shui, who had been silent the entire time, finally spoke. It seems my worst fear has been confirmed. Both of them turned to look at him. Liu Renfeng frowned. Brother, what were you worried about? Ning Shui didn't answer him directly. He pointed at the glowing footprints on the floor and looked at Bai Xiaoxiao. Although I am 80 or 90% sure, I still want to confirm it. Sister Bai, go take a look. Are these footprints Tang Jiao's? Bai Xiaoxiao nodded and turned down the hall. A few moments later she returned. Her face was as cold as frost. She gave the two men a sharp nod. It is her. Hearing that the footprints belonged to Tang Jiao, Li Renfeng glared. Motherfucker, her again. Bai Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes. Hey big guy, do you really need to act so surprised? This afternoon, everyone else went out to search the tourist spots for clues. She was the only one who claimed to be going to the nearby Fuo Yi shrine. Of course, it's highly likely she didn't go anywhere at all. Her words are completely untrustworthy. Li Renfeng fumed. I knew that bitch was no good. Pretending to hold a cooperative meeting in her room, only to order everyone around and trick us into being her cannon fodder. And now, she's actively trying to get us killed. Ning Shui, who had been staring intently at the floor, suddenly spoke. Sister Bai, give me the flashlight. Bai Xiaoxiao nodded and handed him the specialized UV flashlight that illuminated the footprints. Ning Shui clicked it on and traced the glowing steps around his room. He finally stopped in front of the large wardrobe. He inspected it meticulously, running his hands over the surface until his fingers found a hidden, splintered crevice at the bottom corner. Wedged inside the gap was a wooden tag. The tag was tied with a frayed red string. Carved into the wood was a character all three of them were intimately familiar with, Ruan. Seeing the wooden tag, Bai Xiaoxiao's eyes flashed sharply. Liu Renfeng also seemed to realize the implication. He gasped, Last night, the charred wraith in Brother's room was looking for this exact tag. Ning Shui nodded. Most likely. This tag is definitely an item exclusive to the Ruan clan. At the very least, outsiders like us, posing as tourists, couldn't obtain them easily. For Tang Jiao to get her hands on so many Ruan clan tags, she must have met with Shaman Ruan in the village. Bai Xiaoxiao furrowed her brow. Did Shaman Ruan order Tang Jiao to do all of this? Ning Shui sighed heavily. Yes, this is the worst-case scenario. As tourists, our understanding of the foul spirits in this village is absolutely zero compared to Shaman Ruan. If she intends to use these entities to butcher us, it will be incredibly difficult to defend against. Li Renfeng was utterly confused. But we have no grudge or enmity with Shaman Ruan. Why would she do this to us? Ning Shui remained silent for a moment. I suspect it has everything to do with the shrine sacrifice 6 days from now. Big guy, do you remember the diary from our first scenario? Li Renfeng nodded. Of course I remember. The little girl's mother received a phone call. Her grandfather said her grandmother was severely ill and wasn't going to make it, demanding she return home. But the mother absolutely refused. And after finding out her mother died, she was terrified, as if she was afraid something was coming for her. She even went out of her way to procure that blood-red jade pendant to protect the little girl. Pausing mid-sentence, Li Renfeng suddenly froze. He muttered in disbelief. Brother, are you saying the little girl's grandmother is Shaman Ruan from this village? Ning Shui nodded. Exactly. The mother was Shaman Ruan's daughter. She undoubtedly grew up in this village, meaning she definitely knew the dark truth. As for Shaman Ruan suddenly falling severely ill, it likely wasn't a natural disease. It was related to the entities in this village. I am guessing that in the timeline following our first Crimson Door, Qiyu village has completely lost control. The wraiths, harboring unfathomable resentment, are all seeking brutal vengeance against the Ruan clan. Thinking of the apocalyptic implications, Liu Renfeng couldn't help but shudder. Holy shit! What the hell did the Ruan clan do to spawn such terrifying monsters? Then the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place for him. The flayed woman we met at Feng Hall earlier, she demanded we bring her to the pool. Could she have meant Shaman Ruan? Bai Xiaoxiao patted Lu Renfeng's shoulder approvingly. Not bad, big guy. You are actually getting sharper. Lu Renfeng fell silent for a moment before asking, so what is our next move? Do we go find Shaman Ruan and drag her to Feng Hall? Ningqiu Shui shook his head. This village is crawling with foul spirits that want to butcher the Ruan clan, yet the clan is still alive and well. They clearly possess powerful means of defending themselves. They will not be easy to deal with. First, we need to figure out how to handle the person who planted these curse tags in our rooms. Both of them knew exactly who he was talking about. Tang Jiao. What is there to figure out? She tried to screw us, so we screw her right back. Tonight we hide all these tags in her room, let her get a taste of being hunted by the dead. Lu Renfeng despised malice, and just the mention of Tang Jiao made his blood boil. But I still don't get it. What does she gain by helping an NPC murder us? The more of us who die, the fewer people there are to help her find the path to survival. Doesn't that just put her in more danger? To answer his question, Bai Xiaoxiao explained the grim mechanics. The Crimson Doors have two very bizarre hidden rules. First, when the death toll inside a scenario exceeds 90% of the starting players, the overall difficulty drops drastically. The restrictions placed upon the ghosts become significantly tighter. For example, back at Feng Hall, if Qiyu Shui had been the sole survivor of the entire group, that flayed wraith would not have been able to attack him so easily. It would have required a specific trigger condition, and those conditions are generally difficult to accidentally activate. The second hidden rule is that behind the Crimson Doors, blood must be spilled. If a highly skilled player finds the exit before anyone dies, that exit will randomly reduce the number of people it protects. The entities within the scenario will randomly select up to 1/10 of the survivors to slaughter. Finally, there is a compensation mechanism. If only a single person survives and walks out of the Crimson Door, that sole survivor is guaranteed to be rewarded with a ghost artifact. This final revelation made the blood drain from Ningqiu Shui and Lu Renfeng's faces. Driven by such massive potential benefits, there will always be lunatics willing to cross the line. Bai Xiaoxiao seemed entirely unsurprised by the depravity. That is precisely why the groups formed inside these scenarios almost always consist of members from the exact same ghost dwelling. 2 or 3 people bound by loyalty. You will rarely ever see people from different factions forming a genuine team. As for planting these wooden tags in Tang Jiao's room, it isn't a bad plan. But her door is locked. We need to find a way to get inside. At this, Lu Renfeng flashed a sly, arrogant grin. No need to overcomplicate things. Just find me a piece of stiff wire and leave the rest to me. The other two stared at him in surprise. You know how to pick locks too? Sensing their judgmental stares, Lu Renfeng coughed awkwardly. Let me make this clear. My master taught me this trick back in the day, but I've never used it for anything illegal. Besides, we live in a society governed by law. With my culinary skills, I make more than enough to feed myself. I don't need to risk going to jail for petty theft. The two nodded in amusement. They quickly scavenged a piece of stiff iron wire and handed it to the chef. Lu Renfeng expertly bent the wire into a specific, jagged shape. The 3 of them crept to Tang Jiao's door. After ensuring the hallway was completely empty, Lu Renfeng went to work. With a few practiced twists and nudges, they heard a faint click echo from the mechanism. The door was unlocked. The room before them looked almost identical to the others. Ningqiu Shui searched the space and finally decided to slip the wooden tag bearing the character Ruan inside Tang Jiao's pillowcase. Just one? Lu Renfeng asked. One is enough, Ningqiu Shui replied. She isn't completely defenseless. Planting too many will easily expose us. Lu Renfeng still felt uneasy. Will she die? Having this item in the room didn't guarantee death. Ningqiu Shui had survived the first night, after all. According to his description, as long as one lay perfectly still in bed and made absolutely no sound when the entity appeared at night, they would be fine. Don't worry too much. If she doesn't die tonight, I have other methods. Bai Xiaoxiao's lazy drawl carried a lethal chill. She shoved her hands into her pockets, unable to conceal the murderous intent flashing in her beautiful eyes. She had zero sympathy for people like Tang Jiao, and she would absolutely show no mercy. After completing the task and ensuring they left no traces behind, the three of them carefully slipped out of the room. Afterward, they headed to the dining hall for dinner. Armed with their analysis from earlier in the day, Liu Renfeng viewed the dining hall in a completely different light, his gaze highly scrutinizing. He quickly realized that Ning Chushui's deduction was absolutely correct. This architectural style wasn't meant for a cafeteria. It was clearly a hostel. The villagers had deliberately converted the old tourist hostel into a dining hall and repurposed a row of abandoned, desolate rooms into the new hostel. It was impossible not to overthink their sinister intentions. They carried their food trays to the private room agreed upon at noon. The atmosphere inside was as dead and silent as before. Fortunately, the head count hadn't dropped this time. Seeing Ning Shui's group enter with their trays, Tang Jiao's hand, which was reaching for food, visibly paused. Her eyelids twitched, and a flash of surprise crossed her eyes before she quickly masked it. "You're finally here. You were gone for so long, I thought something had happened to you." Tang Jiao feigned a sigh of relief, a fake smile blooming on her face. However, knowing exactly what she had done behind their backs, the three of them found her utterly hypocritical smile nauseating, preaching unity and survival to their faces while stabbing them all in the back. "It was nothing," Ning Shui replied smoothly. "After checking out the Buhi well, we decided to drop by Feng Hall on the way back, so it took a bit longer." The moment he finished, a woman sitting to their left eagerly chimed in. "Now that everyone is here, let's exchange our clues." The group nodded in agreement. "We'll go first. This afternoon we went to Fengdi Bridge." A bespectacled man began recounting their experience. In reality, the clues they provided were essentially useless symbols and trivial details. Yet Tang Jiao listened intently. When the man with glasses finished, she even offered fake praise, claiming his information was highly valuable and that combining it with other clues might just reveal the path to survival. The three members of the bespectacled man's group looked pleased. They all turned their attention to Ning Chushui's trio. "Right, Ning Chushui, did you find anything this afternoon? What was at the Buhi Well and Fangkun Hall?" Facing their eager questions, Ning Chushui calmly recounted their afternoon ordeal. However, he concealed the truth about the flayed wraith's specific demands, simply stating that they only survived thanks to Bai Xiaoxiao's powerful ghost artifact. Otherwise, all three of them would be dead. His storytelling skills were excellent. He spoke like a seasoned narrator, and even through his abridged version, everyone in the room could feel just how lethal the situation had been. By the time he finished, the others realized they were drenched in cold sweat. Tang Jiao, sitting furthest from Ning Chushui, had a flash of irritation in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a vicious internal sneer. "Dumb luck. Too bad that luck will only save you once, not forever," she thought to herself. Thinking of the cursed items hidden in their rooms, the corners of Tang Jiao's mouth twitched upward. These 7 idiots had no idea they were being played. By the time they realized it, it would be far too late. With Shaman Ruan's promise and assistance, she would absolutely be the sole survivor. Not only would she complete the Crimson Door's task and escape, but she would also be rewarded with a coveted ghost artifact. The thought made Tang Jiao so excited that her fingers gripping her chopsticks trembled slightly. She quickly composed herself, took a deep breath, and addressed the group. "We have gathered quite a few clues today, but I need some time to process and connect them. Let's gather here again tomorrow morning during breakfast. I will summarize everything for everyone, including the findings from Fangkun Hall and the Fuo Yi Shrine." "Everyone worked hard today. Get some rest after you finish eating. This village is not safe at night." The other team members vaguely sensed that something was off. Everyone else had shared their findings tonight, yet Tang Jiao, the very person who proposed this exchange, had offered absolutely nothing. They might be rookies, but they weren't stupid. Just as doubts about Tang Jiao began to surface, Bai Xiaoxiao spoke up with her lazy drawl. "Tang Jiao, we've all laid our cards on the table, yet you are hiding yours. Don't you think that's a bit unfair?" If you can tell us tomorrow morning, why can't you tell us tonight? The moment she finished, the bespectacled man pushed up his glasses and fearfully chimed in. Exactly. If you know something, spit it out. We can use tonight to piece everything together and figure out the path to survival. 3 heads are better than 1, right? If Bai Xiaoxiao's words were the fuse, the bespectacled man's agreement was the spark that lit it. Seeing everyone glaring at her, Tang Zhao's expression visibly stiffened. Beneath the table, her hands clenched into tight fists. That bitch, Bai Xiaoxiao. Since noon today, the moment she met Bai Xiaoxiao's gaze, she had sensed that this woman wouldn't be easy to manipulate. She was highly likely a veteran who had survived several Crimson Doors. Usually, while rookies weren't unintelligent, the immense psychological pressure of the supernatural horrors caused them to drop their guard against other humans. The terrifying, high-stress environment made them desperate to trust strangers who appeared confident. As a result, rookies were incredibly easy to deceive. Tang Zhao had pulled this exact stunt flawlessly time and time again. She possessed 3 ghost artifacts, all acquired through this method of guiding rookies in her previous Crimson Doors. This time, however, it seemed she had finally hit a wall. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to support me.